How to handle people in a crisis. The general public calling the police when they need help or when the situation gets out of control. They trust the criminal justice system and the law enforcement to have the skill and confidence to make crisis situation better. Police get calls to a variety of environments to respond to situations where someone has either already attempted suicide or when someone else is considering it. It is up to the officers to protect and serve, and in order to carry out their mission of these crisis events, they need to know what to do. According to the Center of Disease Control and Prevention of the FBI, in 2019, there were 47,000 suicides compared to 16,000 murders. That said, there are a few things that need to be considered by law enforcement in suicide, called the relations of safety, possible use of force, location, and the law. These factors contribute the balance of protecting, serving, first government instance. Patrol response does not necessarily go hand in hand with suicide prevention. First responders, officers who arrive at the scene should only be a temporary deterrent until appropriate EMS physiological team show up. Find the professional and get them help ASAP. Protecting and serving safety factors and prohibits tell us we should save the lives and help the individuals immediately without any use of force. The person, after all, hasn't broken any laws, but the arena of the event which causes the priority. If the person is not open air environment, such as a public parking lot, in a car in a Walmart supercenter parking lot, with a gun, the interest is not only about the individual. It becomes a government interest for the safeties of the innocent people nearby. But the events require a little bit more aggression without causing the hysterical. But if the call was for a person threatened to jump off a bridge at the end of the road where no one else was around, should law enforcement interact with that person? Is it trying to talk them down a good idea? Perhaps not. What if the individual was up there because of running within the law and fear of all the police? There is no issue of calling a 911 suicide attempt to residents. If a non-resident sister offers to meet the police outside of the home where the brother is inside alone with a gun threatening to kill himself, do you think the police authorities should enter the home without permission of the residents? Not really. What do you think you should do? Enter in legally and possibly save the brother, or run the risk of mishap and leading to the allegedly courthouse battle of lawsuit? Many law enforcement suicide prevention training programs say do not engage. Just call the professionals and just wait. This theory is based on the fact that law enforcement are not psychologists, experts, and there are lots of possibility things that could go wrong. Suicide interventions are just downright sticky situations for the law. They cannot just rush into the matter into their own hands. There are too many factors to consider when safety has to include the government threats and the criminal justice system. If it is the situation warrant for the law enforcement engagement, police officers need to talk to the person and be more importantly, they have to show that they understand and show the compassion for the people in trouble. They have to form a trust connection so the people start telling their stories. Once the officer gets the person talking about their secrets and about their issue, they have never really told anyone else before. That is not an easy task by all means. If a local police officer called to the scene, I would start by talking to my family and friends of the neighbors and recent behaviors of the person. I would want to know if they have recently been talking about feelings, being trapped, being burdened by others. Have they been extra anxious or using drugs? Have their eating habits, sleeping habits been different? Have they been having a weird temper, tantrums, talking about getting revenge on anybody? It would help me diffuse the situation if I am familiar with the mindset of the individual who is going on the bridge and getting ready to jump, or a person who has a gun pointed at their own head. Understanding these risk factors will help me assess the situation and prepare to start a conversation with the individual. My goal would be to try and find the trigger of the suicide attempt. Have there been any issues at work? Were there recently a divorce? Have they been in debt? Things that you can never get a break. Have been diagnosed with terminal illness or in trouble with the law. Knowing what is happening to the person along the lines and what to do and what to say are the heart and soul of the suicide prevention because of the techniques. Getting people to open up and explain why they are thinking about killing themselves. Another critical issue that falls into the government interest category is to make sure that everyone around the scene is safe by getting rid of the lethal means of death, such as a weapon, or could go off accidentally, or be used for a murder-suicide situation like those in the domestic violent events. In some of these situations, a person planning to kill themselves may try to provoke a suicide by cop, where the engaged behavior that is life-threatening go to the officer and the scene of the people around them by firing the crowd. This type of situation must be avoided by all cost. Here, some use of forces will most likely be required. With or without some mental health training, I would attempt to establish a bond with the person by listening carefully and what they have to say and talk to them in a calmly and supportive manner. I would explain that I am here to help without showing any signs of judgment. I would encourage the person to talk about how they are feeling and direct questions like, are you thinking about ending your life, or do you have a plan? Hopefully these questions will provide a sense of relief to the person and can gain some confidence in themselves from someone that can care about them. I would set an establishment a trust relationship while disputing the person in order to change the focus. A good start would be addressing the medical needs of it or the person. For example, if I notice the cut on the arm, I would ask if the wound was hurt or needs attention from a doctor. I would use practice that I learned through mandate crisis intervention training about the importance of maintaining a safe distance while the individual overcomes the fear and hopeless that led for them to get there, while basically startling for time until the EMS team arrives. I would have an open mind for the psychology of the person. When they have limit through thoughts and head to decrease restraint. If they are unpredictable and do things to protect themselves from what they think is a threat, it is always going to be an idea to mention the National Suicide Lifeline and give them the number. The number is 1-800-273-TALK. Also 1-800-273-8255. A past incident, 2018, shows positive smart thinking on behalf of the Michigan State Police, who responded to a bridge jumper suicide attempt. The YouTube video explains how the police around the Detroit are soliciting and the assistance in a big truck driver to the parked underneath an overpass where a man was prepared to jump off to his own death onto an interstate. As the trooper closed off both directions as the interstate, 13 trucks piled up, parked closely to maintain the gap between them and to use them to protect the man in case he fell off. It took 3 hours for the police to rescue them. They were able to save their life with this maneuver. See the photo that I have in my discussion board, and thank you very much.